Good afternoon, and welcome to Thomas P. Miller and Associates Apprenticeships, the Pathway to a Skilled Talent Pipeline webinar. I'm Vicki Thompson, and I am a senior project consultant here at Thomas P. Miller and Associates. And joining me today is my co-moderator and colleague, Brenda Vogley, who's a senior project consultant as well with TPMA. And we are going to have our panelists today help us out. And I'm going to give a very short introduction and they'll give a self-introduction later. So we have with us today Lucinda Curry from Robert C. Byrd Institute, Lori Deaver from Industrial Sales and Manufacturing.
Hello.
Sue Griffith Smith from Ivy Tech Community College. And Nicole Walter from HM Manufacturing. You'll notice that there is a chat box and you can type in questions and we will answer those as we move along throughout this webinar. Your microphones are muted, so please be sure to use the chat box if you have questions. And we also wanted to let you know that we are recording this so that if we need to go back later or you want to go back later, we can let you know how to get to it. So let's get started. Brenda, first question.
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. I'm going to open with a question for all of our panelists, but just want to ask them before they answer the question, if they can give again their name, the organization that they work for, and what their role is, not just with the organization, but also with registered apprenticeship and how or why you're involved with registered apprenticeship. That would be fantastic. So I'm going to say the question and feel free, I can re-ask if needed. So the first question is, how has registered apprenticeship played into economic recovery for your state, your region, and or your staff? What innovative approaches have you put in place during the pandemic or since the pandemic to continue your apprenticeship programs? I'd like to start with our employers. Nicole, if you wouldn't mind going first, that'd be great.
Yes. Nicole Walter. I am president and CEO of HM Manufacturing. We are based out of kind of like the northwest suburbs of Chicago. I am second generation. My father started it in 1979. And we do all power transmission components. So gearboxes, gears, anything that is in a gearbox, conveyor belt driven for a platitude of industries, including food, beverage, packaging, aerospace, defense, medical. So we were very busy during the COVID years. But I'm super passionate about registered apprenticeships because as supply chain, I think everyone knows right now, is just in complete peril. I have not had labor shortages like a lot of my colleagues and some competitors because I've continued with my registered apprenticeship program. And it's been so great for us. During the COVID times, we did kind of switch to like a hybrid system. So they were still going to classes. They were doing it online. Because we're pretty spread out around here in manufacturing, I even gave some of the extra cubicles so that they could continue learning and they could continue being active in the workforce while still being safe and while still getting their diploma and as well as the NIM certification.
Thank you, Nicole. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. Lori, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. My name is Lori Deaver. I'm the Workforce Development Manager for Industrial Sales and Manufacturing. We are a contract manufacturer. We're located in Erie, Pennsylvania. And we were deemed an essential business, so we could stay open during the pandemic, as challenging as that was. In our area, a lot of things were shut down. And so initially it was because we were dealing with continuing to work, dealing with anxiety of employees. Why are we still open? You know, what deems us an essential business? And then once we got beyond that, I did still and was able to continue with some training at some local technical schools during the pandemic. And the one individual that I was able, and again, you have to, are they comfortable, going and continuing? And these were actually in person. And so it wasn't online. My coworkers embrace in-person training. So we were able to have one individual, actually an individual that we acquired through the Work Advance program that we are continuing to work with. And so during the pandemic, his training, I was, as I had mentioned, at 2 technical schools. And then, he is who I have earmarked to be our next apprentice. And so the courses and the things that he's been doing, we would classify as pre-apprentice, and that he could apply towards the apprenticeship once we get back on track with that. So in other words, if you're not familiar with a pre-apprentice, it's coursework and things that you can do on-job training that might be considered to be applied as credits toward the registered apprenticeship program. So that's kind of what we were doing in line what we were during the pandemic.
Thank you, Lori. Same question, Lucinda. Nope, we can't hear you, Lucinda.
Sorry about that. Lucinda Curry, Director of Workforce Development and Apprenticeship Works at the Robert C. Byrd Institute at Marshall University. And what we do is we do serve as an intermediary for apprenticeships and advanced manufacturing, as well as a group non-joint national sponsor. So currently we're working with about over 30 different employers at over 50 sites around the country. In multiple occupations, about 20 different occupations in advanced manufacturing. So it was really one thing that we had done ahead of time was most of our related training that we offer when we're doing it. Sometimes it is a local school that is also doing parts of it for a manufacturer. But for some of the companies where we do all the related training, we were already doing online and virtual. But we were also sending out trainers, to do on-site training at the company sites. So during the pandemic, we did have to pull back from doing our train-the-trainer classes and some of our on-site classes and, transition that some. But what we found with the employers is that having a lot of it online really was helpful for them, because even if they had to furlough people, or, cut back on their hours or things like that early on in the pandemic, they could keep moving forward with the related training. It didn't have to stop and restart. And so it was already a hybrid model of, like I said, the OJT on site at the companies, and then also related training at the companies and online. And we were able to just transition really easily to all online and keep everybody moving forward pretty much. That didn't have to, actually shut down, which was great because most of them didn't. I'd say very few companies that had to shut down for very long, maybe a couple of weeks, and then they'd get back up and running. So.
Thank you, Lucinda.
Sure.
And Sue, same question.
Sure, thank you. So I'm Sue Smith, and I'm the Vice President for Advanced Manufacturing, Engineering, and Applied Science at Ivy Tech Community College. Ivy Tech has 22 campuses across the state with my school in them, and about 40 that do training in other sectors. And so we blanket the state of Indiana really with education. And so during the pandemic, we experienced a tremendous amount of challenges with closures of our campuses. And so we had to really we have a flipped classroom model that we use in my school, which has a lot of online resources already built into it. So we were able to revert to a lot of that and do, as Lucinda said, some sending some trainers to the sites, our employer sites, to do the on-the-job training or the competency-based training that we could do when we were able to do it. But we really see apprenticeship as a workforce development and economic development tool. And so in Indiana, we at one point in time were the #1 apprenticeship state in the nation. And since then, we've fallen behind to California and South Carolina and some other states who've really put a lot of work into developing their internship or their apprenticeship programs and internship programs. But for us, registered apprenticeship is really that workforce development and economic development tool. And to that end, during the pandemic, we have made a real concentrated effort to sort of rethink and reimagine and rebrand our apprenticeship program that we deliver at the college. And so we're working with employer partners. We've set up an internal team that works with employer partners to really make apprenticeship the first choice for employer partner training, because it really is that recruitment, as someone had said earlier, that recruitment and retention tool that helps us to retain our developed workforce. And so we worked with Thomas P. Miller a bit. They did some work for us in helping us rethink apprenticeship and be more intentional about it. And so we also have created an external team, and that external team is an advisory team comprised of employer partners across the state who is going to help us really, drive home the importance of apprenticeship to the state of Indiana. So that's basically what we've been doing. And like I said, we are really looking to have an apprenticeship 2.0, if you will, initiative at the college that really makes apprenticeship the first choice for employer partners across the state. We also developed an interdisciplinary degree so that employers can really create their own apprenticeships and the content in those apprenticeships from our current class menu.
Thank you, Sue. I was just jotting a couple of things down. Thank you for sharing. Vicki, you want to go ahead with our second question?
Yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll take part of what Sue said and I'll start there. So Sue had mentioned competency-based apprenticeship programs. And so for our listeners, and then I'll pose this question to both of our manufacturers, our employers that are here as I ask the question. The types of apprenticeships are typically going to be competency-based, time-based, or a combination, which is a hybrid base. And so I'll ask the employers about that, but I also want to help people understand that there are also group-sponsored model apprenticeship programs and individual programs. And so in an individual program, an employer is putting together their standards of apprenticeship based on the occupation that they're looking at. And in a group-sponsored model, you could have a group that has put together that standard of apprenticeship. And so sometimes it may be a sector partnership group. Sometimes it could be a post-secondary institution, that type of thing. And so as I ask this question, I ask our employers to take both of those into consideration. What type as far as competency, hybrid, or time-based, and then group sponsor model or individual when you think about yours and you answer this question. So Nicole, I'm going to start with you. Why is apprenticeship important to your company? You did lead with some of that, but can you tell us how you went about putting together your individual standards of apprenticeship and what that process looked like as you developed the related technical instruction and the on-the-job training?
So it originally started as internship based, and we are 20 people. So for me to try to go down this route and get my dad to kind of sign off on it was quite a feat in itself. And so now we're 4 or 5 years into it. And so the, maturity of that full program has really started to come about. But during the internship, and I kind of split them off into two. I did business-based and then I did manufacturing-based. And just those two tracks alone was really interesting because I started to get a field of young students, so 17, 18 years old, that were really excited about being a part of this internship. And I partnered with the local high schools that had a very nice, robust manufacturing program, and then other high schools that were in the area that were really kind of engineering and business based so that I could get two different avenues. And as we started the internship and some openings started to come about, and as we were growing, I thought it would be a great idea to kind of morph what these students, after they were graduated, if they felt that they really liked it and wanted to do more with it, that I would start an apprenticeship program. So being a part of a lot of associations, which I think is super key in order to try to get this off the ground, because you're going to have to ask questions. You're not going to really know what is going to be good or not good. Doing an internship for 4 to 6 weeks versus an apprenticeship program, which is definitely 1 to 2 years, depending on the level and how far they want to go, you're going to need help. So I contacted some of the organizations that I'm on the boards of, and they put me in contact with the Department of Labor. And with that, we started our own program. And it's developed into a couple of things. I do have individual and I do have group, because I think it's important that, you know, we cross-train, that everyone kind of gets an understanding of what one machine is versus another. Being a small manufacturer, people aren't going to be here. So it's always so good for someone else to be able to go to do a different machine and be able to understand what we're asking of them, so that machines can keep going, product still goes out. So individually, we start off, whether it's CAD, and that's the whole different dialogue when it comes to CAD and CAM, which is what we use for our prints and what we use for programming, down to CNC machining and all the different levels. And so it starts with like level 1, which is learning how to read a blueprint, learning GD&T, so learning your tolerances and what that all means, to inspection. And then you start to grow. And what we've done is I like for everyone to spend about 6 months in each area. And we've got multiple areas. We've got CNC lathes, we've got CNC milling, we've got 5-axis milling, we've got gear hobbing, broaching, gear shaping, you name it, we do it. But I think it's so great because by the time that everyone's done, individual, group, everyone really has an enormous talent. And it's really great that not only does it generate buzz, but everyone gets really excited about the new skills that they're learning, which helps in terms of bonuses and raises. And then I can go after some of the cool things in manufacturing that we want to go after. And we have a young group, which I think is even more important. The average work employee that is out in my shop is 34 years old. So that tells you how young we actually are. And when I want to bring in new technology, when I want to bring automation or any of these kooky things that I want to bring about, they are so for it and they get excited about it and they like coming to work because they can, do the 5-axis milling. They can do the really cool generations and tool paths and the automation, robotics and IoT and even vision systems. And that to me is a really cool thing that originally started with just an internship. And the more that I started to develop the program, the better off we've been. And right now, I actually have 4 interns that are going to start this summer. And here's hoping that at least some of them want to stick around because I just think it's so great that 18 and 19-year-olds are really starting to like manufacturing and what it's all about, because I've been able to open my doors and they can see the difference of what manufacturing is versus what they think it was.
That's great, Nicole. Yeah, I really appreciate that you explained how you're starting with those internships, because that really is an opportunity to actually build your own pathway, right? And the fact that you're using, an individual standards of apprenticeship that you have put together based on what your specific needs is also speaks to the time that you've actually been able to put into that. Thank you. So, Lori, my question for you then, similar, why is it that apprenticeship is so important to your company? I know that you are using a group sponsored model, and what was it that led Industrial to do that?
Well, it's no secret that we have an aging workforce, and in our area, the pool of candidates is very low, and so not only did Industrial Sales get on the apprenticeship train, but also some other local manufacturers that surround us, and so those businesses that decided to get on the apprenticeship train, we all decided to go with the group sponsored model. And we did that for support, I think, for each other. And, it was new for us. And it's nice to have someone, a business friend that you can say, hey, what do you think about this? And, and so and it helps to build relationships and rapport with those that you get around the table, right? When you're looking at your area and looking at workforce needs. And so it was mostly because of the support that you get through that. And I love the competency-based piece for the apprenticeship program. I mean, when you're looking at life-work balance and you can move as quickly through it or as slowly, depends on their life and what's going on in their life. And our apprentice had to take a year sabbatical due to, some personal reasons, and now got back on it. And he just actually wrapped up the apprenticeship. And so, that's the beauty of that, is that flexibility, with the apprentice. So I think that that's very, very important.
Thanks, Lori.
Sure.
Can you speak a little? You had mentioned work advance and pre-apprenticeship. Can you talk to us a little bit about how that works into your pathway for apprenticeship?
Sure. One of the things that is challenging is, and I think in the world we live in today, is commitment. And, in getting individuals to commit, and there is a commitment level to the apprenticeship, whether it's in any type of, whether it's pre-apprenticeship coursework, whether it's apprenticeship, it's getting that commitment. And when we were recruiting for candidates for the Work Advance program, that that's what they're hungry for and that's what they're looking for. So it makes it easy for you to continue on with that. And so the candidate that we got through the Work Advance is who I'm continuing to invest in, because the individual has proven that he's motivated. He did very well, continues to do well, and is hungry for more. And so that makes it easy for us to see that career pathway for him.
Thanks, Lori. And for those of you who may not be as familiar with Work Advance, basically what Work Advance provides is a pre-employment training program, more or less, to put it in an easy kind of box. It's typically a 5 to 8 week program where there's some refresher math and some career readiness building and coaching that goes along with it for a full year for the individual. And they also have technical skills where they end up with a credential. So Lori, I don't recall for that particular cohort that your employee was in. Do you remember which credential they ended with?
Well, they did get the OSHA 10.
Okay.
They got the OSHA 10, and that can be applied to or considered pre-apprentice. And then those credits would be applied to the registered apprenticeship program.
Yes. And I know that there were also some certified production technician pre-apprenticeships and some NIMS pre-apprentices as well. And as Lori said, what's nice about a pre-apprenticeship or those types of, and I know that Nicole was saying too, that others are, maybe starting with other training, is that you can count all of that toward your apprenticeship program then, because an apprenticeship does allow for prior credit. So it saves time and it saves money. Thanks, Lori.
Sure.
Brenda?
Thanks, Lori. I was typing a message to Vicki to ask more clarification on Work Advance. Great minds think alike. So thanks for sharing that, Vicki. So the next question, we've talked a lot about the pathways, and I think that these pathway programs are very important, not just for registered apprenticeship, but just for the workforce as a whole. So with that in mind, and thinking about our candidate pools and building those pathways, we talk a little bit about with all of our panelists about how or what diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts have been particularly successful for you when it comes to your apprenticeship programs, or those who you are assisting as far as the employers go in implementing their registered apprenticeship programs. So thinking a little bit about what efforts have been made towards more inclusive registered apprenticeship and pathway programs. Sue, I would like to start with you if I could.
Sure. So I think the Department of Labor has a lot of tools on their website, and they've developed a lot of things that can help support those diversity and inclusion efforts. They've developed a handbook for, I think it's advancing opportunities for women in apprenticeship. They also have another program for disabilities. It's called the Apprenticeship Inclusion Model. And that helps to put, and I think they're working there with a lot of major companies like Amazon and Microsoft for folks with disabilities to get them into apprenticeship programs. So I think those are two things that are really good tools to look at. What we are doing in Indiana is we're working with our high schools to set up these very intentional level pathways, we call them, or graduation pathways. And so what is required of students for graduation is to choose one of those pathways, which will include an internship. We're also working with our Department of Workforce Development on what they call state earn and learn programs, and those are both at the adult and high school level. And again, they're focusing very much on helping folks get into apprenticeship programs from all sectors and for all sectors and from all demographics. But I think if you want a success story, the most successful the thing that we've had in recent months has been to have actual journey person, I guess, success stories and put those as socialize those. And most recently we had a young African-American woman who is an electrician, and she was talking about her experience and some of the challenges that she has on the workplace. But for the most part, she was very positive about working with her brothers and sisters, as she calls them, and making the same money that they make. They all have the same job. They're all in it together. It's very, very much a team. And so I think having those kinds of success stories is really what has or what lets folks see themselves in those situations and in those careers and in those apprenticeship programs.
Thank you, Sue. Lucinda, same question. What diversity and equity efforts have RCBI and your partner employers been successful with?
Brenda. Well, over the last 5 years, we've really developed 3 different areas more extensively. And that was one was with our West Virginia Women's Work Program, and it is a machining and CNC, manual machine and CNC introductory course for women to help get them into the machining field. And that's been really highly successful, and it's sort of been a model for some other states to do. And then we also work with transitioning veterans and help connect them to registered apprenticeship. We do online training with them and then connect them to our employers that are part of our group. And then they do more on the job training and, looking to transition them back to their states. So that transitioning veterans has grown as well. And then we also work with a couple different other partners for disadvantaged youth. We work with Challenge Academies, which are part of the National Guard, to work with disadvantaged youth that are in danger of dropping out of school. And it's just like a boot camp type of a situation. And they get their GED and they get training. And then this apprenticeship is sort of an add-on resource for to get younger people interested in advanced manufacturing occupations. And then we also work with job corps, a couple job corps in different areas, and with some schools too, a school in Tennessee and a school in Philadelphia that have picked up that program, that disadvantaged youth program. So those are really our 3 areas that we've pushed the deepest into over the last few years that we've been under our American Apprenticeship Initiative grant.
Thank you, Lucinda. Lori, would you mind talking a little bit about some of your efforts at industrial sales?
Sure. Before the pandemic, it just kind of triggered what we were doing before the pandemic became our reality, and in promoting apprenticeships and also some other opportunities for training through grants that become available. I was doing some work with CareerLink And one of the areas that or the folks that I was working with or was beginning to work with before the pandemic was the Release Back to Work group, working with those individuals. I also was doing some speaker in the classroom at local high schools, going in and talking about co-op opportunities, internship opportunities. We also had a successful lead into some other training opportunities through a signing day, a high school signing day. We all hear of the signing day. And we had, some of our local high schools have these manufacturing tracks. And so we would take an individual as a co-op while they were in high school. They did so well, it was such a good fit. Then we turned that into a signing day event. And so they signed to stay with us, and which turned into a college internship, which will very likely turn into a full-time job. Or if, depending on what they want to do, going into an apprenticeship, registered apprenticeship opportunity. So a lot of different things that we were doing that way. Again, getting back on track as things start to open up.
Thank you, Lori.
Sure.
I saved this question. I saved Nicole for last on purpose with this question, because I know this is the reason why we met Nicole is we are in the process of doing some diversity, equity, and inclusion case studies for the Manufacturing Institute. And I'll give a little plug. Some of those are up on the Manufacturing Institute's website. Some of them are still in the process of being developed, but also a good resource there, examples of, as Sue was saying, kind of these case study approaches of some of the success that the Manufacturing Institute members have had with some of their DEI programs, implementing them within the manufacturing companies. So give a little plug for those. If you're interested, you can certainly find those online. But Nicole, I'll pass along to you now to address the question.
So I am all about this. I am a Latina, so I vibe with this whole shift in the workforce development. And it originally started because I felt like we just weren't represented. And just being a woman in manufacturing, being young, and also not knowing much about manufacturing. When I originally started here at the company, I knew nothing about it. And I just felt so alone, and I didn't understand much of anything. And so going through the ranks and learning every division of this company from the ground up, and now being here for 12 years, I thought it would be such a great thing to be able to open the doors and give someone else a chance to see what manufacturing is. Like, I love this industry so much. I never thought I would, which is crazy because my dad started it. But I just thought it would be so great to give someone else a chance to understand what manufacturing is. And if they love it, great. And if they don't, at least they have a better understanding of it. And so now what I do is, I was talking earlier about I have my 2 tracks. Well, every year, with the internship program, I do the either machining side or the business side. And it originally started with just girls. And now it's really developed and morphed into this great appeal where I have Latinos, I have young girls, I have an amazing Indian guy who's coming here, who is just so smart. He's 18. He's trying for 4 languages. He wants to be an aerospace engineer. I mean, like, his resume, he's already been coding. He built his own robots. I mean, when I saw this kid's resume, I walked straight to my dad's office and I go, "We found your replacement." And I just thought it was so cool that these kids are coming out of high school so insanely smart that I wish that I could go back to high school to learn all this coding and cool things that they're doing. But even though I'm not going to have him, he's just going to be here for an internship. I'm just really excited that I'm going to be able to give him some sort of a base for him to kind of understand the R&D, the inspection portion. He can shadow my dad, who is a whiz in all of his genius that he's been able to do. And just being able to give him my networks and post about him social media wise, and give him the exposure that I know he's going to get, and help him to kind of maybe hone in on what it is that he's looking to do manufacturing or engineering wise, because he had a couple of thoughts. He didn't know if he wanted to do robotics or if he wanted to go into aerospace. But with all of my connections, I'm looking forward to just kind of helping him so that when he is in college, that I could help him gain an internship, whether it's at Boeing or, Bell Helicopter, whatever it is. And that's what I think is so good, is giving these kids the exposure and giving them a chance to see. I have another girl who's coming here, the Arabic girl. She's another girl, and she's in STEM. She knows how to code. She's going to redo my whole website. I'm really excited for her to do all of my social media posts. And that's what it's about. It's getting like a different feel of everybody. And I just love all different ethnicities. I think it's so important to have in your company because everyone thinks differently. Everyone speaks differently. Everyone, just the content, everything, all of that drive is so healthy for a company because it only makes us better. Everyone has just insane ingenuity. And I think the more that we can collaborate as a group, the better off we are. And that's what I love the most. And I've been doing that so much. I have a really good success story. Her name is Hannah Schmidt. She came to me at 16. She is now at the University of Miami in Ohio. She works for me full time. She does all of my social media posts. She does all of my posts. So if you see me anywhere, it's her content. All the things, I take pictures, I send it to her, and I don't even have to review her work. She's got it down to a science. And to me, the coolest thing is when she came in, same with me, didn't know much about engineering, didn't know much about manufacturing, thought it was dirty, gross, wanted nothing to do with it. And now she loves the PR and the marketing aspect of it so much. She's been with me to the White House. She's been with me all through DC and all the crazy things that I've done. And when she graduates, she wants to open up her own marketing firm and she wants to help manufacturers. So even though she's not going to be working for me, I think it's so fantastic that she's got an idea of what she wants to do and how she wants to implement her talents and help the manufacturing community, because we're kind of bad when it comes to marketing and social media and stuff like that. As ingenious as we are, that's just not our strong suit. So, as much as we can open up the doors for all of these kids and give them an understanding, the better off we are. I'm working with Dee Dee Jones at CY, which is the Chicago Youth Association, and I'm helping with their underdeveloped areas in the south side of Chicago, and I'm giving those kids a chance to kind of understand manufacturing and giving them an internship. And even with COVID, it's been a little bit difficult, especially because I'm kind of further removed from the south side of Chicago. But I will send them videos and I'll let them edit, splice it, and post it on TikTok, our HM TikTok. So as much as I can help out and get the exposure out there, I think the better off we are, especially as we've all been saying that the skilled workforce right now is the pool is kind of small. There was a study out there that just came out from the TMA, which is the Technology Manufacturing Association. They polled 50 students that were doing their precision machining contest. And only 25% of those 50 said that they didn't want anything to do with manufacturing. So 75% of them have an interest in it, want to continue with it, are looking to do it either part-time or full-time by the time that they're done with their coursework. So I just think that as employers, if we can just touch one kid's life and get them to understand what it's about, I think the better off we're going to be.
Thank you, Nicole. I appreciate you sharing some of your success stories with the group. I just wanted to acknowledge we had a couple of posts in the chat. The first was participants asking if we have a link to some work advance material, if it's possible to get some information to Dirk on that or to share it with the group, that'd be great. And then Dennis Parker has shared a link to some tools and ideas through NAEP. If you'd like to take a look at those, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. And Dirk will definitely get some work advance links or materials to you. If not during the session, then after the session, we'll certainly get that out to everyone. Okay, back to you, Vicki. Thanks.
Thanks. Hey, I'm in the midst of a work advance project right now that's for Eastern Ohio and Western Pennsylvania. So I can definitely get some materials together and share those with the audience. So we will definitely do that after this webinar. So my next question is for Lucinda and Sue. Thinking about the partnerships and the partners that you're utilizing to help employers to be successful, my question is a three-parter, right? Because we're not asking one straight question during this webinar. So the question is, who are some of the partners that you work with to assist employers with their apprenticeship programs? How are you engaging with employers? How are those partners helping with that engagement? And then what ultimately are the services that are being provided to the employers through yourselves and the work of your partners? So Lucinda, we'll start with you.
Okay, thank you, Vicki. So we have some national partners. We do work with the National Coalition of Advanced Technology Centers, which is about 170 or maybe more now community colleges across the country that are designated advanced technology centers. And so working with them and working with their membership, we've been able to help them become sponsors themselves, some of the colleges, or partner together to do some consulting and development of new apprenticeship programs. Some other national partners that we've been working with are the National Institutes of Manufacturing. Two in particular, of course, we worked with you all, Vicki, at TPMA and through America Makes in Youngstown, Ohio. And they're the Additive Manufacturing or 3D Printing Manufacturing Institute, for those who aren't aware of them. And so with that work, we stood up the first occupation in additive manufacturing, a 3D printing technician, that was approved by the Department of Labor as an apprenticeship program, and have our first apprentices in that in the Navy, actually, out in California. So that was a real exciting program and great partnership with all the memberships, all the members under America Makes, which there's a lot of manufacturing members as a part of that group. And then we did a similar thing with the Composite Institute in Knoxville, Tennessee, and got the first composite technician apprenticeship approved by Department of Labor. So those are some really cool projects and good outcomes to stand up new occupations. And then with some other members and some other organizations like Tooling U and the Society of Manufacturing Engineers, we work with them extensively to provide online curriculum and also to help us build out frameworks and update programs. Like we took the CNC operator program and the CNC programmer and put those together into a hybrid program and got that approved at the national level because most employers like to have those two together now rather than separate occupations within their organizations. So working with those partners and also with the Job Corps and some of those. On a local levels, we really have got to form some cool partnerships with local workforce investment boards. So when we're working with a company at their local level, we try to produce an asset map and say, okay, here's the local community college in this area, the local career centers, what they're offering, if they offer these types of things that you need for your occupations. The local workforce investment board that might provide funding, the state office of apprenticeship, and that local apprenticeship and training representative to be a good contact for technical assistance and maybe extra training funds like state expansion grants. So for each employer, it takes a little bit of work to pull that together, but it really is beneficial to the employer. Because a lot of times they don't know where to start. So if we can help pull the partners together so that they can utilize the resources that are available to them, then it's just a really big benefit. It helps them stand up their apprenticeship a lot quicker than them having to do all that investigative work themselves. So that asset mapping has been a real, opportunity for us to meet partners and build partnerships across the country.
Thank you, Lucinda. Sue?
Well, in Indiana, we have a lot of work with a lot of national folks too, American Technical Education Association and the AACC, American Association of Community Colleges. So we work a lot with them. We have an apprenticeship expansion grant from AACC right now. We're partnering with them and other community colleges across the country, to work to expand apprenticeships into other sectors and into other other areas. One of the ones that we're working on right now with colleges across the country is on the Smart Automation Certification Alliance certifications, or SACA certifications. These are Industry 4.0 certifications. And Ivy Tech has actually built out a degree program called the Smart Manufacturing and Digital Integration degree, because we didn't have a degree that actually supported that systems integration work that's going to be so important to manufacturing companies in the future. And not only manufacturing companies, but also those artificial intelligence skills that are going to be needed by healthcare and the healthcare sector and in the IT sector, and in all different sectors across the board. So that's one way that we've been supporting the companies, is to develop these new apprenticeship programs and these new apprenticeship opportunities for our employer partners. We actually have a team of deans and consultants that work with employers in their campus service areas, and they actually kind of set up cohorts in each campus service area so that so that we can create pools of apprentices in those areas. And then we work with our Department of Workforce Development. We're a sponsor. Each one of our WIBs, our boards, workforce and boards, is also a sponsor. We have a Department of Labor, Federal Department of Labor system that is our apprenticeship office there in the state, and here in the state of Indiana. We work very closely with them. And we really actually provide kind of a concierge service for our employer partners, in that if they're in an apprenticeship program, we do a lot more customer service than we do an actual just an individual student. We get the books for them. We make sure they're registered. We provide some wraparound services for them that we don't provide for just our regular students. So we have a lot of support that we provide for employers, but with our grants that we have from the Department of Labor and from AACC, we've been able to create this team of employers that is actually helping us promote apprenticeship across the state of Indiana. Because it's one thing for me to say this is a great employer engagement tool, it's a great workforce development tool, but if Cummins says that, that's a little different weight than just if Ivy Tech says that. So I applaud the employer partners on the call that are willing to jump up and say, hey, look, this is working for me. I mean, Nicole says, I don't have the same issues that some of you all are reporting, because I kept this pool of, workers coming with this sustainable program that's apprenticeship. So yeah, that's kind of how we work with our employer partners. And there's a lot of apprenticeship focus right now in Indiana, because today we have about 15,000 jobs just in manufacturing that are going unfilled. And on average, at the end of May, we'll graduate 75,000 to 80,000 high school students. 25,000 of those won't know what they're going to do the day after graduation. So we really have a disconnect, and so we're really very focused on, working with all of our partners to deal with that.
Thank you, Sue. Yeah, that's great to hear about the partnerships that are happening at both of the institutes, and the fact that you're utilizing employer input to be able to put together these specialized apprenticeship programs for them. I know that's happening at both your institutions, so kudos to both of you. I think Brenda has a last question to ask.
Yeah, I do. But before we go on, we have a couple of questions. One is asking if any of those on the panel have developed company tours for adults that showcase career opportunities. And also, Sue, somebody's asking specifically about the name of the certification that you mentioned that will be needed.
I can answer both of those questions, but we do have tours. When we developed the Smart Manufacturing and Digital Integration degree, before we developed it, we actually took faculty and some students on a tour of one of our companies, Cummins, who is developing and using that Industry 4.0 model and technologies to develop out a new production lines. And so we have done that, and we do that quite routinely, working with our employer partners, because we're trying to engage. When I talked about those intentional graduation pathways, those come with internships. So it is our hope to get folks out there so that they can see that it's not the Model A factory that, is in all of everybody's mind when they think of manufacturing, but it is a very high tech environment. So the organization that we worked with to develop out these Industry 4.0 certifications, which are now becoming Infinity.0 certifications, was the Smart Automation Certification Alliance, or SACA, SACA for short. And it's a not-for-profit third-party organization that has the certification tests. And then we use some Amatrol e-learning to train to the silver and gold level in those certifications. But we've used the certifications themselves to really upgrade our current curriculum, and then to look at future curricula, which is the Smart Manufacturing Digital Integration degree, which combines a great deal of IT and big data and some of those kinds of things into a degree that our employer partners can now use for apprenticeships.
Thank you, Sue. Guy, if that didn't answer your question, please go ahead and post a follow-up there in the chat. Thank you for that question.
Thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you. Lori or Nicole or Lucinda, any experience with adult company tours?
During, for National Manufacturing Day, that's a big day or leading up to it, or even some follow-up to National Manufacturing Day, is adults that are looking at a career change, that look for, again, as I mentioned, grant opportunities that pays for training for those adults who are underemployed. And so this kind of goes hand in hand with all of that. And we do open on, of course, again, the pandemic has changed that or put a stop on that for a time. But as things are opening up, we will open up our doors again for company tours, not only for adults, but it was mentioned, a lot of seniors graduating that don't have an idea what they're going to do. I go into, with other HR professionals, and those who are in workforce development go in and do interviews, with the students, and, kind of a mock interview and things that they're going to be looking, at facing when they're out into the workforce and looking for a job. And also a speaker in the classroom has been, I think, successful. At least it gets them thinking. And I always, when I do have those one-on-ones with senior to, feel like they missed the boat. And I always say it's never too late. Even after you graduate, there's a lot of opportunities for continuing to train, to meet with people who want to help you, figure out what you want to do. What do you love doing? One thing that, and again, through that work advance, although this is not about that, is that these individuals, they know what they want to do, and it makes it so easy. That's where co-ops come in, and internships and tours and speaker in the classroom. It just gets people thinking about careers in manufacturing. And Nicole, you mentioned that manufacturing, we got to kind of change the face of that, and what it's not dirty and it's high tech. It's like a bright, shiny penny. There's a lot of things going on in manufacturing, and as a contract manufacturer, we've got the latest, greatest, and our young people want to see that, and they want things that they can do, and in manufacturing. So tours is an important part of that. All these connections and developing these relationships. That's what's really the key to getting people to get re-engaged into manufacturing careers.
Yeah, I'll add just a little bit onto that as well. Pre-pandemic, we did take people, or pre-apprentices, to our employer sites, and they would give tours. It was really helpful to them. And most of the pre-apprentices are actually adults, except for the disadvantaged youth group that we work with. The women, most of them were either 20 to 50 years old, looking for a new career or gotten the kids raised or, different things. So definitely adults. And the transitioning veterans, of course, were all adults as well. So that it helped them to see inside the box. You drive down the interstate and you see this big, huge box taking up 2 or 3 blocks, and you wonder what goes on in there, So to open the doors, for the manufacturers to do that was really helpful for us to take the pre-apprentices and take them on tours. And then during the pandemic, we had some virtual tours set up that way. Mm-hmm. And also a really cool idea was a reverse job fair. Instead of the pre-apprentice graduates, going to table to table to table for the employers, the graduates were at a table and the employers would come by and try to sell them on why you should come to my company. Mm-hmm. And so that reverse job fair was really cool. And so a lot of those employers, would bring a virtual tour type thing on their laptop and say, "Well, see what we have, and see what kind of equipment we have," and they were in such demand, those pre-apprentices, that was just a cool way to do it. So you might want to try the virtual tours as well.
Thanks, Lucinda.
Oh,
so
go ahead,
Nicole, sorry.
You're going to say the same thing I am.
So Nicole, if you want to go ahead and answer that question, and then we're going to ask everybody, and we'll start with you, Nicole, so you can answer that question, and then just give us some final thoughts on apprenticeship and what you want to leave our audience thinking about.
Yeah, so I definitely do shop tours as well. I think it's super important. I actually encourage the parents when I do internships for them to come the first day so they can understand where their child is for the 6 weeks that they're with us, which I think is super important. But I am such a fan of the apprenticeship program and internship. I think it just does so much for the team. It leaves us, when they leave, we actually are sad because they bring such good energy. Especially the internships. It's just so great to see a different mindset and what they actually think the manufacturing future is. So I always like to get a good idea of what they're thinking, because we are going to have to shape shift for them, right? They're going to be the next people that are going to be our buyers, our marketing, our accounting, the whole gambit. So it's always good to kind of pick their brain when they're done to kind of get an understanding. And then as far as the apprenticeship program goes, I really don't think we would have been as far as we are in this company without it. The cross training, of course, is huge. But, giving everyone a skill and getting them to see what level 1 machining is to where they are now advanced in such a short amount of time has just been tremendous. And just the opportunities in general are great. I don't have a labor issue, and I will refuse to have a labor issue because I really have morphed this company to be a nice bridge between the high schools and community college to the company. And so as we keep evolving, as we keep generating and growing, I think it's important to continue what we're doing. I think it's great to give everyone an idea of what manufacturing is. They don't need to be with me. I pay 100% for training. I don't think that it's a bad move on my part. I think it'd be a bad move if I didn't. And so even if they're only with me for 6 months to a year, I think it's worth the efforts because you never know what's going to end up happening. And the overwhelming majority of the time, they don't want to leave just because I put so much time and energy, and I really trust the team that's here, and we have a great team. We have a great atmosphere. It's a fun, exciting, and everyone knows that when I mean business, but it's a really good atmosphere, and everyone's on the same page. And I think it's so good when you do have the diversity and you do have different types of people working with you, how everyone really chugs along. And I think
you got cut off there.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate your enthusiasm, and you really are doing a lot with that whole DEI effort. So kudos to you. Lori?
Okay, my final thought on apprenticeship, which it's a win-win situation. It's a win for the employer and it's And it's a win for the employee, the apprentice. And that's how it should be. You know, the employer wants to buy into the apprenticeship because then they're building a skilled workforce for not only today, but into the future. For the apprentice, you know, it just equips them with the skills and the necessary competencies, especially in some of in the businesses where, you know, if like in our business, being a contract manufacturer, you know, we have such a diverse product line that there has to be certain skills and competencies. And looking back at where our apprentice was before he went into the apprentice program and where he is, the confidence level that he has is through the roof. I mean, it's like night and day who he was, what he is today, and that he was working with a mentor. He now is a mentor. He is building his, as I refer to, a new buzzword in today's workforce, is your career portfolio. You know, what he could do, and now he can be a mentor. He could be down the line an instructor. You know, some people just leave me in my box and let me do what I want to do. And then there's others, it opens up a whole opportunity of different things that they can look at and consider, not only employability, but also their earning potential. You know, they get respect not only from their employer, but also from who they work with. And they look at, you know, here's this individual who's so focused in learning and growing and being so devoted to the trade. So there's a lot of really positive things that come out of an apprenticeship.
Thank you, Lori. I'm sorry, I'm having some computer issues. I keep going in and out here. So Lucinda and Sue, I'm going to ask, since we're over time, if you don't mind, if there are some comments that you have that you want to put in the chat box, to go ahead and do that. We are going to make sure that we answer all of the questions that were in the chat box. We'll make sure that we get back with everybody and give them the information that we promised that we would. We thank you all so much for your time, panel. We appreciate your expertise that you were able to share with the audience. And audience, we appreciate the feedback that you're giving us, as well as the chat box questions, and we'll get information to you. So thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice day.
everyone.
Thank you for having me.
Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.